Now to this, a new aid distribution group backed by the U.S. and by Israel says it has started operating in Gaza. Now, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation uses armed American contractors for security. This is what makes it different. It aims to bypass the UN to become the main supplier of aid to Palestinians in the enclave. For more on this, let's bring in Osamah Khalil. He is the chair of the International Relations Program at Syracuse University, joining us from Syracuse this morning. Thanks for being with us. What can you tell us about this relatively new aid program and the likelihood that it will get people the supplies they need, whereas previous efforts maybe were limited in that effort?
Well, happy to be here. Well, this new program is already off to an inauspicious start. The director has already resigned, and there's an interim director in place. And the director who resigned said it was because the attempts to deliver aid could not be done so with a humanitarian purpose. And that shouldn't be surprising. The United Nations is the only major organization on the ground, as well as several other NGOs, that can provide the necessary aid. But the bigger issue here is that Israel has been preventing aid from coming in, at least since mid-March, if not dating back at least 20 months, some would argue 18 years. So roughly 500 to 600 trucks a day need to come into Gaza just for basic sustainability. And we're not even seeing a trickle of that. So we've already had at least 65, maybe 70 Palestinian children who died from malnourishment. The UN is warning that thousands more will die in the coming days unless the necessary aid comes in. So what needs to happen here is not these kind of fake organizations that the Israelis have set up using American military contractors to pretend that they're allowing aid in. In fact, none has come in. We're already getting reports on the ground that none has come in. And as I mentioned, the director has already resigned. What needs to happen now is for a ceasefire to be put in place for at least 600, possibly as much as 1,000 trucks per day to come in, so the Palestinians, the 2 million Palestinians who've been under 20 months of war, can actually get the aid they need. Otherwise, we're looking at famine, malnourishment, and disease.
So the ceasefire actually taking hold is crucial. What do we know about the latest proposal that Hamas agreed to, but Israel rejected it?
Well, unfortunately, this has been a consistent pattern for at least 18 to 20 months. It began under the Biden administration, it's continued under the Trump administration. The major stumbling block here is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What he does is every time we come close to a ceasefire agreement is he undermines it. And then he finds some new excuse to do so. In fact, it's important to remember the ceasefire ended in March because Israel unilaterally ended it. The only way these hostages that are remaining can be released is through a negotiated ceasefire. You know, Israel has killed more hostages than it's rescued. The major group of hostages that have been released have been through negotiations and a ceasefire. We're very close. All of this, I think it's important to stress, was completely avoidable. All of this could have been done way back in October 2023, at least December 2023. And it's really incumbent now on the Trump administration to distance themselves from the Biden administration's failed policy here. President Biden could have ended this a long time ago. And it's unfortunate that President Trump has continued it. All of this could be over. And so much pain and suffering and death could actually be ended. And in fact, that's what we need the president to do at this point, is to really begin to distance the United States from Israel the way you just talked about on Ukraine in terms of an arms embargo, sanctions, et cetera. That's the kind of message that needs to be sent to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, who's continuing this for his own narrow political purposes.
A sobering assessment. Osamah Khalil, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.